Indiana News Desk is made possible in part by Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnerships with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville Fiber Internet Security Solutions and Voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson Attorneys at Law, utilizing 75 years of experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana News Desk. Two former Indiana University basketball players have filed a lawsuit against the school alleging sexual abuse by a former team doctor. The alleged incidents took place during the 1990s.
There just wasn't the enlightenment that there is now.
Indiana's 6-0 start under first-year head coach Curt Cignetti has Hoosier fans excited about the prospects of this year's team.
We could make the college football playoff. It's just sky's the limit for this team and for Coach Cignetti as well.
Saturday's homecoming game against Nebraska has been sold out since last week. And we continue our series of interviews with candidates in next month's general election with Attorney General hopeful Destiny Wells. We'll have these stories plus the latest news from across the state right now on Indiana News Desk. Welcome to Indiana News Desk. I'm Joe Wren. Well, two former Indiana University basketball players are suing IU over alleged sexual misconduct under the guise of medical treatment by a former team doctor. There are, however, questions about what was standard care at the time. Aubrey Wright has more details.
The former players are Charlie Miller and Haris Mujazonovic. They played for the men's basketball team in the 90s under Coach Bob Knight. The players are claiming former team doctor Brad Bomba Sr. performed medically unnecessary rectal exams on them and other players. They say IU officials knew about it, but did nothing. With a class action lawsuit, the players accuse IU of violating Title IX, which protects against sex-based harassment. Attorney Kathleen Delaney represents the players.
So basically, the people at the university in positions of authority who had the ability to do something about the problem did nothing about the problem and instead allowed this illegal conduct to be repeated and more students to be victimized.
The lawsuit is alleging coaches, athletic trainers, and basketball staff knew about the exams, and that people even joked about it. Last month, Delaney and Mujazonovic notified the university of allegations. They were anonymous at the time. In response, IU made the claims public, and it hired a law firm for an independent review. The university says the review will follow the facts, and it will take any warranted actions. IU Emeritus Law Professor Jennifer Droback studies sexual misconduct, and she helped shape IU's policies to comply with Title IX in the 2000s.
I do know that members of the Indiana University administration are incredibly dedicated to providing an educational environment that is free from sexual violence, discrimination.
Delaney believes dozens of people have contacted IU's investigators about Bomba, and she expects more people to come forward.
When two people tell their truth, or when one person does and then another, other people are inspired and develop the courage themselves to start talking about the same problem.
Today, the medical standard of care is generally not to start prostate exams on men until age 50. But in a letter published by the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, Dr. Dale Sloan says during Bomba's time as team doctor, rectal exams were in line with standard practice. An investigation into similar allegations of sexual abuse by a team doctor at the University of Michigan came to a different conclusion. From 1966 to 2003, Dr. Robert Anderson was accused of performing unnecessary hernia and rectal examinations on patients. This investigation's final report said the exams were not standard at any point during Dr. Anderson's university career. Droback says victims of abuse often don't speak out or report it because they feel hopeless or embarrassed. Drawback wasn't at IU in the 90s, but she says, in general, sexual harassment wasn't taken as seriously, even though it wasn't right or legal.
You didn't have a strong recognition, tradition, and pattern for employers or educational institutions to follow. There just wasn't the enlightenment that there is now.
The lawsuit states Miller and Mujanovic didn't know IU did anything wrong until they met with legal counsel this year. Delaney says her clients both have college-aged children.
They feel strongly that they need to take a stand publicly to make sure that this type of tragedy doesn't happen to others.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm Aubrey Wright.
The plaintiffs are seeking monetary relief from damages and demanding a jury trial. Democrats haven't won the race for Indiana Attorney General since 1996, but some see incumbent Republican Todd Rokita as vulnerable after multiple state disciplinary investigations into his conduct. And Democrats believe Destiny Wells is the person to beat him. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Brandon Smith sits down with Wells to discuss how she views the race.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I want to start here. What, in your mind, is the role of Indiana's Attorney General?
Well, it's to be the state's chief legal officer. So what does that mean? You have a handful of clients that you have to consider, right? You are the governor's attorney, you are agency's attorney. That's the work I did when I worked there as a deputy attorney general in litigation. I defended the Department of Correction. But you're also there on behalf of the people. So for consumer protection, the big third one I would hit on is that the AG advises the legislature. On is this law constitutional, or do you need a legal opinion on this?
What role do you see for a statewide office holder in the Attorney General to be advocating for policies, whether or not it was directly a part of the duties of the office?
It is a tightrope, and we deal with this question a lot with abortion, right? You shouldn't be talking about abortion. That's the state wrote the law. Right, and we do have to defend it, but we also can withhold from abusing the office. And what we've seen out of the current Attorney General is he's taken his partisan positions and he's used his authorities when it comes to licensing to chill medical care.
You bring it up, abortion obviously has been a part of your campaign. If you're the Attorney General and Indiana's abortion ban remains as it is right now, and a doctor performs an abortion that seems to be contrary to that law, do you, as the Attorney General, go after that doctor's license?
So this is what Todd ran up against, right? He wants to go after the doctor that completed the abortion, but really whether it's legal or not. And so he took a press conference in Fort Wayne where he asked the public to sue his client, right, the Indiana Department of Health, so that he could get a hold of the termination of pregnancy reports and he could start investigating the doctor. We will not be doing that. Right, we will not be advocating for the public to go on a witch hunt of medical professionals who are providing reproductive health care. However, if the complaint does come to the office, we will do our due diligence in investigating it.
What are things that you would want to do as Attorney General in the office that you think the office isn't doing right now?
Absolutely. This is one of the things I take the most joy in on the campaign trail, because it really gets down to a people-centered campaign when we talk about this. And what I saw comparatively when I started looking at other offices across the U.S. is that they actually have a division of labor or something similar where they're looking at the shortcomings of workers' rights, whether, labor trafficking is one, because trafficking's already in the Indiana AG's office, in which they're really not paying attention to. But there's also worker misclass, wage theft, issues that the Department of Labor can't wrap their arms around completely either, and neither can local prosecutors. It really needs another actor at the state level. So we are proposing that we start a labor task force.
How do you break through, especially in a year when there is so much attention being eaten up by the folks running in the races that come before yours.
Right. Well, I mean, from a political science perspective, this is what I've been thinking about since 2022, right? It ran in a midterm against a candidate who was very damaged. Nobody knew about him. Nobody really knew what the Secretary of State did, and we didn't turn out. It was a midterm year. So with this year, with higher turnout, with different types of mobilization now that we have, I mean, I'm very happy that we changed out the top of the ticket, right? I know they're excited, as am I, to maybe get my first woman commander-in-chief. I thought I was going to get her in 2016. I didn't. And that's half the reason I'm running, right? I got involved in politics. But there is just so much more at play this year. And things did drastically change with the Harris change-up.
Rokita's campaign did not respond to multiple requests for an interview. You can find all our candidate interviews and complete election coverage on our website, WTIU.org/elections. Now, Rokita is threatening more local governments with lawsuits over the state's ban on so-called sanctuary city policies. The Attorney General sent letters Wednesday to the St. Joseph County and Lake County Sheriff's offices. He accuses them of violating a 2011 law that bans local governments from restricting cooperation with federal officials over citizenship or immigration information. Rokita filed lawsuits against Monroe County and the city of East Chicago in July over their immigration and citizenship status policies. Well, we're joined now by Shelby Brown for more headlines from around the area. Welcome, Shelby.
Thanks, Joe. The state appeals court now has the city exhibits and will decide Bloomington's annexation appeal. The court ruled against the city in August, blocking the attempted annexation of areas 1A and 1B in southwest Monroe County.
We've had several folks come to us wanting to do voluntary annexation, and if they're not in 1A or 1B, we are talking to them and starting the process of what is needed to put together voluntary annexation.
She says the city is also eager to partner with the county on voluntary annexation to get city water and sewer to a proposed jail site of Vernal Pike. The city is also appealing another annexation ruling over the constitutionality of the state's 2019 law on the validity of remonstrance waivers. Thompson says decisions on either appeal most likely wouldn't come until spring. The Indiana Family and Social Services Administration implemented a wait list for certain Medicaid services more than 6 months ago, and advocates say that it's created a significant barrier to care for medically complex Hoosiers. More than 13,000 Hoosiers are still waiting for home and community-based services through Medicaid. FSSA implemented the wait list in response to last year's $1 billion forecasting error.
One of the many frustrating points of the story is that we have not had a substantive policy conversation about how we fix the budget shortfall.
Hamilton says the state budget committee should work on a solution to address the issues caused by the wait list. She also says people encountering issues should reach out to their lawmakers ahead of the 2025 legislative session. It may not be obvious, but climate change is impacting Indiana weather in multiple ways, according to Gabe Filippelli, the executive director of IU's Environmental Resilience Institute. He says climate change means storms like the one that hit Bloomington back in June are leaving much more damage. And with the state in a transition zone between warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico and cold air from the north, temperatures can vary widely in the span of just a day.
It's this constant play, but unfortunately, or fortunately, Indiana's right in the middle of that boundary. So that's why, this phrase, if you don't like the weather, come back later today, because we have pretty variable weather patterns.
Being in this transition zone is causing Bloomington summers to get 1 to 2 degrees warmer. Filippelli says people can also expect to see more snow-free days in the winter, as winters are also warming up. A bright yellow art installation is coming to Hopewell Commons next year. The design, titled Undulate, was the most popular in a community survey this summer. The looping, arcing structures will be sturdy enough for visitors to climb and explore. It will also include embedded LED lighting for a soft glowing effect. The project's budget of $100,000 is funded through Bloomington's 1% of the Arts program. It's scheduled to be constructed next summer. And a recent survey of trails at the Dean Wilderness has found 14 invasive plant species, and some may be hard to remove. Officials say the less abundant invasive species will be prioritized. Manual removal would work for some plants, but a ban on herbicides in the wilderness limits their options.
It makes it much more difficult, of course, because it restricts the toolbox that you can use. But being a wilderness area, we have to be also aware of the Wilderness Act laws.
And Joe Kuhn says people can remove invasive plants from their properties to help minimize their spread.
Hey, welcome to Indiana News Desk. It's nice to have you.
Nice to be here.
Coming up next on Indiana News Desk. A 6-0 start to the IU football season has fans singing the praises of first-year head coach Curt Cignetti. And the Indiana University Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology is reopening after a multi-year renovation. Now, these stories and more right here on Indiana News Desk.
Tired of spending so much time and money on vehicle maintenance and repairs? Make this October Cartober when you donate a car, truck, RV, or boat to our nonprofit. Spare yourself the headache of never-ending repair bills or the hassles of selling your car yourself. Plus, your donation is tax deductible. Just call this toll-free number and schedule your free pickup. We'll sell your car, and the proceeds support our mission. Donate today.
Welcome back to Indiana News Desk. Well, one of the things Curt Cignetti wanted to change when he took the head football coaching job at Indiana was the culture of the fan base. A near-empty Memorial Stadium after halftime has been the norm, but that's starting to change with success. Indiana's homecoming game this weekend against Nebraska is a sellout. Elise Perry has this story.
Memorial Stadium was rocking as the final minutes ticked down in the Indiana-Maryland football game. It's what first-year coach Curt Cignetti has been pleading for after seeing students arriving to games late and leaving early. Now, students say, the energy around IU football is starting to resemble basketball, with a packed stadium and fans staying for the entire game.
It's at a point now where Memorial Stadium is so packed that it's impacting the players on the field. It's helping the offense, it's helping the defense, it's hurting the other team's defense or offense, and it's getting in their head.
Indiana's record is its best since 1967, when the Hoosiers made the Rose Bowl. IU is ranked 16th in the nation and hasn't trailed in a game at any point this season. Cignetti is being celebrated as the reason for the success. Unaccustomed to the Hoosiers' sudden rise in football, fans have created various Coach Sig t-shirts in honor of the man who came to IU from James Madison University. The original Cignetti t-shirt, depicting the Marlboro logo with the name Cignetti, was given out at the first football game of the season. Now, Perlick says he sees people wearing them everywhere.
I see it all the time, whether it's at games, on campus, just around Bloomington. I kind of have to smile because it's just, I can't believe that IU football is where it's at right now, getting national attention.
Since the shirts were handed out, stores started selling them, and people started making their own. Senior Elle Unfried made herself and her boyfriend, recent graduate Tyler Cleary, matching shirts. Their shirts read Sigs and Bloom and were inspired by different designs she'd seen around.
I'm just, being an artist, I try to find so many different things I can do and paint personally for myself, and seeing all the Sig merch on campus, I'm like, well, I can make a cool spin off of that.
Asked about the t-shirts, Cignetti said fans liked that he made brash comments when he was hired, and that he and his team are backing it up on the field.
I think it's more of a reflection on how the team has played and the success that they've had on the field that's gotten people excited, and this is just a byproduct of that.
Unfried started watching football when she got into college. In her first 3 years, IU's record was a combined 9-27. She's excited to finally have a good team to watch.
I've newly gotten into football in college. I mean, in high school I never really watched, but no, I'm newly getting into it and I love it. Having a team that you can root on and cheer for is amazing.
Cleary graduated from IU in 2024, but remains an avid IU football fan.
I'm a big tailgate guy. We're always out in the parking lot, but now that the team is really great and Coach Cignetti's bringing the vibes, I'm always in the games.
Cignetti has sent 2 letters to students, the first of which urged them to attend the Maryland game, and added, "The tailgates can wait, the parties can wait. If you need to study, that can wait too. That last sentence inspired t-shirts. One says, studying can wait. Another says, things that can't wait, winning. After that game, Cignetti sent a second letter, thanking the student body for its support. Student Athletic Board Vice President of Communications, Francisco Cáceres, thinks that, aside from winning, Cignetti's interaction with the students is why they are attending and staying at games.
Normally for games, even when it's like a Big Ten opponent in the past, people leave after like the first quarter. It was pouring down rain the whole game. We were winning, so it was fun, but people stayed past the final whistle, which I've never seen before in my 3 years at IU.
Cáceres is optimistic about the rest of the Hoosier football season.
I never in my life thought that IU would be leading the charge on anything football related. I do think there's a chance for us to get to the college football playoff.
Cáceres isn't the only student dreaming of new heights for IU football. Perlich says the team is bound for more success.
Can't believe I'm saying that, but Coach Cignetti, what can't this guy do? You know, I'm starting to think we could win the Big Ten, we could make the college football playoff. It's just, the sky's the limit for this team and for Coach Cignetti as well.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm Elise Perry.
Yeah, Fox is bringing its national Big Noon kickoff pregame show to Bloomington for Saturday's game against Nebraska. Monroe County residents are still cleaning up from damage left by the big storm in June. Isabella Vesperini reports on the recovery process and how much money the city has spent picking up debris.
Denise Valkyrie just got a hole in her roof repaired from the storm that hit Bloomington in June. Winds toppled numerous trees, and nearly 74,000 people in Monroe County lost power for extended periods. Valkyrie lost power for a week after a power line fell in her neighborhood.
We were in the hotel for about a week.
The city and the Monroe County Emergency Management Agency last month finished cleaning up debris from the storm. Roof repairs cost $12,000. That cost will be covered partly out of pocket and partly by insurance.
It was very difficult to find a contractor to work on the particular damage on my roof.
It cost her $3,500 alone to remove the tree in stages. Valkyrie had to take $4,000 out of her retirement fund to help pay for the costs of clearing tree debris out of her yard. She'll probably have to take out another $4,000. She hopes she will get reimbursed.
They're not wanting to cover my fence because my fence wasn't installed with regular posts. They're kind of temporary posts, so we're having a hard time with that one. But that's going to be another $11,000.
Valkyrie, who is the president of the Broadview Neighborhood Association, says the entire neighborhood suffered extensive damage. Neighbors worked together to help clear debris from their yards. The city and the Monroe County Emergency Management Agency stopped taking requests to collect debris at the end of July. While there are still some ongoing expenses, the city has spent about $2.1 million repairing damage from the storm. About $1 million is going towards repairing a structure at the street division.
We had an awning at the street division that we parked all of our snow plows and dump trucks underneath. That was damaged during during that big weather event, and so we're still working on getting that demolished and final costs on replacement for that.
The city paid about $500,000 to contractors to help with debris cleanup. About $430,000 went to Williams Tree Company in Martinsville, and around $50,000 went to Bluestone Tree to grind the debris. About $100,000 went to materials such as gravel and trees. About $170,000 was spent in labor costs, which includes the extra hours staff had to work to clean up debris. Another $200,000 was spent on equipment costs. Wason hopes either the State Department of Homeland Security or the Federal Emergency Management Agency will reimburse that cost. While Valkyrie just finished clearing debris from her yard, others around the neighborhood still have visible damage.
There's still debris in people's yards that they can't remove. They're either physically unable or they don't have the money to pay somebody to do it.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm Isabella Vesperini.
The County Council approved up to $500,000 for the Monroe County Emergency Management Agency to spend solely hiring one main contractor and a subcontractor to help clear debris. Indiana University's Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology is set to reopen this weekend after several years of renovation. Sophie Kelby has the story.
The renovated IU Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology is reopening, and Saturday's grand opening is about community.
I think this is just such a wonderful opportunity to be able to open our doors because we're here for community. And so if we don't have a community day, like what are we as a museum standing for?
McDonald says the renovations include climate-controlled storage and new spaces for exhibits such as Through Our Eyes, a reclamation. She says this exhibit allowed Indigenous creators to reinterpret colonial photos.
We asked them, what exhibit do you all want? Here's the base, and this is kind of the grant funding we have, but our goal is to make sure you tell your story from your perspective.
The new William Mathers Gallery features exhibits on Islamic fashion and culture at the U.S.-Mexico border. McDonald will unveil the gallery at the grand opening.
It's completely renovated, and it's just a really beautiful space where we can find opportunities, creative opportunities to tell people stories and uplift culture and identity and land.
McDonald says she's excited for Saturday's celebration and for telling stories in the future. For Indiana News Desk, I'm Sophie Kelbley.
That's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana News Desk is made possible in part by Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnerships with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. Smithville Fiber Internet Security Solutions and Voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson Attorneys at Law, utilizing 75 years of experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.